I was in SEAL training, BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training on 9/11.
Wow.
I was in first phase of BUDS. I had just completed a 2-mile ocean swim. And I remember that day very distinctly because prior to that, you could kind of call the SEAL teams maybe like a shoot, dive, jump club, right? It was a good time, right?
Yeah.
And people, I didn't know much about SEALs when I went in. We weren't high profile in the media the way we are today. But pejoratively, you could say like, oh, those guys, they're just like this like small unit, like doing their thing. It wasn't as operational. Obviously, September 11th changed all of that for both the SEAL community and for myself.
So you're in the water. 9/11 happens and you get out and they're just like, hey guys, somebody just flew a plane into the tower. Like, how do they tell you?
Yeah, we were changing out in, you're doing this like quick where you get rid of your rubber fins and you're taking off your wetsuit and stripping down and you're always rushed. And then those 2-mile ocean swims in the morning, right after that, you run to the chow hall. So you start at like 5 a.m. or something. And by the time you finish, you're running over trying to make it to the chow hall with your class before they close. It's another 1.5 mile run to get over to the chow hall. And as we were changing out, you could sort of hear whisper rumors. There's all these sort of, besides the instructors, peripheral personnel who are like, helping maintain medical personnel and stuff like that. Somebody was saying like, oh, a plane hit the World Trade Center and all this stuff. So as we were running over to the chow hall, that rumor was kind of circulating through. At this point, the class is still very large, 200 plus guys, right? My class started with 246 guys. We graduated 26 originals. So we were still this big, massive raging horde at this point running over to the chow hall on the other side of the amphibious space. And people were sort of saying like a plane hit the tower. I candidly thought that it might have been a ruse of the instructors because they're always doing things that fuck with you, right? And they're always playing these little fuck games. And so I was like, oh, this is another one of their games. And then we got over to the chow hall and there was TVs in the chow hall because that's where the regular naval personnel eat as well. So there was TV. It's not as austere.
The people who didn't go on the 2-mile swim,
right.
a 1.5 mile run to get there.
Yeah, they're just waking up, getting their coffee, Yeah, we call it the shoe navy, right? As opposed to the boot navy. And then on the TV screens, we saw the images, right? And then I knew that this was real, partially because like the instructors, frankly, aren't that sophisticated. They could never pull off this, right? So we come back from the chow hall. It's very obvious that something catastrophic has happened. And the instructors, to their credit, they had an incredibly clairvoyant, clear sense of what was going on. And they said, gentlemen, we're going to war and we're going to beat you until those of you who don't want to be here quit. And that's what they did. And that was a horrific day for us, just a physically grueling day. And, for us, you're a BUD student. There's like lots going on. It's hard to think through the strategic implications of what had happened. But for these guys, the instructors who their BUDS assignment is just a rotation, just come from an operational SEAL team, they knew really quickly what it meant. And so they had an even more clarified sense of mission and purpose that day because they knew that the guys in the class, the students, like we were going to rotate. If we graduated, we were going to be in platoons fighting right alongside those instructors. So, they beat the hell out of us. A bunch of people quit. And that was my entrance to the teams.
Did they change the training at all in terms of trying to accelerate folks? Or was this a point where a lot of the units still had enough people where if they were sent out, then, hey, we're good. We don't need to actually change training, accelerate the graduation of people or anything like that?
One of the things that's interesting about the SEAL selection, as you mentioned, is generally considered, some of the hardest military special operations selection in the world, is no matter how big they open the funnel at the top, they really pretty much seem to get the same number.
26 people graduate.
Exactly. It's remarkable how unchanged and how similar it's been since the creation of the SEAL team, since President Kennedy created the SEAL teams back in 1961.
Yeah. It's crazy to me also, I think, how celebratized the SEAL teams have gotten. And the few that I know, they are like, hey, that's like a weird thing. That's not how this was supposed to happen. But it makes sense that whether it's Hollywood, the media, whoever, like, what better story than like, oh, these guys are swimming, in the dark of night and showing up with guns, and like it's a story that they want to tell, but it is very in contrast, I think, to a lot of the ethos of the unit, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit SEAL inside baseball, but when I entered the SEAL teams, I was playing water polo at the Naval Academy. I look back at my water polo team from the Naval Academy, and something like of the 21 of us, like 14 of us went Naval Special Warfare, which is the SEAL team. So it was a feeder, a pipeline program that. Prior to that, I had never really even heard of Navy SEALs. Like back in the old days, right? It was all Chuck Norris Delta Force. Everybody was talking about Delta Force, right? Now Delta Force is like sort of like, smirking at us like, oh, we're the real quiet professionals now. And you guys are these like, Hollywood hair gel guys, right? I think like many corporate institutions, there was this inflection point in 2011, right? Where we went from having an ethos of what we called the quiet professional, and then we had to transition to this very public-facing role, right? The idea that we were going to continue to remain the quiet professionals and out of the spotlight after bin Laden, arguably the single most important mission operation since World War II. To me, that was untenable, right? Like we were very firmly in the public spotlight. And like any organization, we've had sort of some real growing pains with going from a shadowed organization into one that's directly in the spotlight. And I think we're still going through that today.
Hey, you, did you like this video? Great. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and see you next time.